Hi there, welcome back to the Noah Presgrove case, looking at the latest news and discussions on the matter. Today I need to catch up with some important posts from the Noah Presgrove's Army Facebook page, and as well an interesting follow-up response from the video that I did yesterday, in which it was to do with the 911 dispatch calls being revealed to the general public, my analysis on the matter, and I gave it from a unique perspective when mapping it out so you could see firsthand what it looks like. We're going to be following on from that, seeing what other people had to say about it, any other key questions, and any other important stuff. By the time I've got through so much of this video, I would have had a better idea, hence the title, the way it's worded, okay? So welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Be sure to share your thoughts, opinions, reactions in the live chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. And in general, at any point, any moment, if you do have any questions or additional points you want to elaborate on, you can always let me know your thoughts and ideas down below under this video, and I can try to respond to most of them a bit later on. If you do want to catch up on my recent video coverage, whether it be on this case, Noah Presgrove, so the 911 dispatch calls, all that revealed and explained, that was last night. Where the eye symbol is right now, top right corner of the screen, hover over that, click on it, and then you'll find the link to the video that I did last night about it. And if you're interested in the Jay Slater missing person case from different points of views and aspects, I've done a bulk amount of videos today, 2 to 3. I think it was 3 videos, 2 long format ones, 1 shorter one. They will be available up there as well. It's been a bit of a busy day, but I just wanted to try and cover things from different angles. There was a lot of different news articles I wanted to catch up on so I didn't fall behind too much. And as well, as a heads up, I did do a community post as well today. Be sure to check that out because I gave a bit of detail, backstory, explanations, updates regarding different things happening. I'm going to try and catch up on some of the stuff today. If there is anything of interest and it's very unique to me, I might even get a screenshot and do a follow-up focused video. I just want to see where things are at right now. See if there's any additional follow-ups from that breaking news post, what we heard of when it came to that explosive evidence. So feel free to settle in, listen in, or chat amongst yourself in the live chat. And we'll begin. Here we are. I'm going to scroll on down. In no particular order, we'll see the post. This was one from yesterday. Credit to Dusty. And that's to the original link as well provided, which was obviously very helpful. But lower down, we've got this first one showing up, most relevant. Rob Dorfman. Is he the one behind the channel 1 hour ago, Partners in True Crime? I think a couple of you will be familiar with a YouTube channel that's done like videos on the Noah Presgrove case, more importantly, interviews with key people either within the case or within the community. Last one being with Justin Roy, one of the key admins on this Facebook page. I do need to catch up on that when I've got time and I'll do an analysis. I don't know if it would be deemed as old news, but still, there's always room for learning at some point and catching up, right? So yeah, exclusive interview though, and this was posted, 11 hours ago? Exclusive interview, what happened to Noah Presgrove? Caden Pressey speaks out, part 1. And that drops Tuesday, July 9th, so that'll be today. Take in mind there will be a time zone difference. I don't know if that video will be out by the time I've done my video, or it could be shortly after my video. Who knows? I will try and watch it if there is time, but I really do need to catch up on my video project so it doesn't, get too cluttered. If it does get too cluttered, then it gets confusing. So I just need to focus, locking in, try and do as many videos as possible without them being rushed, and then hopefully, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but hopefully there is a small period of silence so that I can tick everything off the list and catch up, because sure, these interviews are important, but it also takes a certain amount of time to watch, then make notes, then do a video, then record it, right, and then relay and analyse. There's a lot to it, but I'll get there. Of course, it's good what these other people are doing in the background, right? Maintaining focus, maintaining a form of consistency, reaching out to key people, doing what they do best at. And then as for me, I do what I do best at as well. So it goes hand in hand in different ways. We've got Dusty here. There we go. So listening to all like Raf, that's good to see, of course. Yeah, okay. Let's click on view more. I think everything's down in the comments. 12 hours ago. So credit to Dusty getting a feather duster out, brushing away any cobwebs and shining the key points and discussions. Let's see what Dusty has to say here. So listening to Warlight Ref's YouTube video, and he made a great point when discussing the 911 calls. Appreciate that. Dusty says, it kind of triggered a thought. You had the first 911 call that was released discussing that he thinks he saw a body on the side of the road but couldn't stop due to several cars behind him. Fair enough, because if you did suddenly stop, it could cause a bit of a pile-up. Then, when the second recording, Tyler Hardy is speaking about the scene. He states that it looks like clothes are in the middle of the highway. If those white shorts were in the highway, wouldn't you think a few cars might have run over them? Oh my God, Dusty! Same wavelength, because it's so funny. Before I actually saw this post and everything, I just responded back to a comment on my YouTube channel about that, putting it into perspective. I don't know if it mentioned it in the autopsy report, but we can always go back over it maybe in today's video. But I think this is obviously a good start and a good direction, because whilst, yes, we talked about this in the video yesterday, I didn't directly title it in my video. I wanted to, but I didn't want to clutter it up and I had limited character space. So possibly the title of this video will include the short situation. And Dusty, there you go, screenshot. Not in a bad way, in a positive way. So yeah, just to make it clear, and I'll get to that in a second in case anyone does get confused, but yeah, about the car running over them, question, why were they so clean? Exactly. Now, this is not discrediting Hardy's description. As a matter of fact, I 100% believe his accounts, but did those shorts end up there between the calls? Key points there. So when Dusty says, then when the second recording came on in, Tyler Hardy, Dusty isn't saying the second recording is the second caller. She's just referring to the order of how it played out in that dispatch audio call video. You had caller number 1, we heard clearly. Caller number 2 was not present in the video and was not included in the audio for some reason, there must be. And then the third and final caller, which Dusty regards to here as the second recording, Tyler Hardy. So when Dusty says second recording Tyler Hardy, she's basically meaning the third and final caller, in case anyone's confused about that. But yeah, as for the shorts, somewhat in the middle of the road, could you argue and say vehicles could still avoid the shorts or some form of clothing? I guess it depends. Are the shorts, the clothing spread out? The more spread out, the more the surface area, the more likely they are to catch or reach a wheel of a vehicle passing on by. Of course, it depends on the traffic flow as well. You could have bras on a motorway and not one is dirtied. If the motorway was shut down, no vehicles would be passing on free. I know it's common sense that. Well, a bit about throwing bras on a motorway. I don't know why anyone would do that, but nevertheless, if there's no traffic, then there'd be no reason for any marks being over the clothing. But when it comes to this case and this situation, even if it is early in the morning, you will always get passerbys, people going to work early, maybe some people coming back from some kind of night shift, who knows. And in terms of the first caller mentioned about there was a few cars behind me, did any one of those cars or him himself in the truck drive over that clothing unaware at the time that it was on the road? Or did that clothing only appear after that when the third and final caller came on by, which was Tyler Hardy? In a short space of time, is that a possibility? We need to check the comments out. I might give my own additional analysis afterwards when we possibly look at the autopsy report, if we can. Right, what's this? My thoughts. Don't think that highway would have had that much traffic to have a line of cars behind them. Odd, it was Labour Day. I understand that people still work on holidays, but most are off. It's a rural area anyways. Right. And didn't Jack Newton state that there were no other cars detected on the cameras? Someone has to have a screenshot of that. Yes, he did. There we go. Is this possibly it? Try and click on it. Jack Newton, directly from the horse's mouth, Facebook Messenger, responding back to whoever. Jack says, no, they even took my Ranger into evidence and released it because they said it had nothing to do with how Noah died, right? You think a random vehicle got him maybe? Jack says no, because there was zero traffic through that area from when he passed away to when it was called in. According to the Terrell store cameras, I'm telling you, it was either the Texas boys or the semi-driver, and I've already messaged the semi-driver. Right, so we have already seen this before, but it would have been in a previous video of mine, which was like looking at a collection of different messages. So that's kind of interesting, that. Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be acknowledged here? No, because there was zero traffic through that area from when he passed away to when it was called in. So 5:46, 5:53. Now, at what time did Noah pass away? For most part of it, it would be deemed unknown. From that medical examiner's report, the autopsy report, unknown. But Jack was the one to reveal the time of death. Because in a different text conversation, I might be able to find it on my channel, and if not, I can always do a separate video about it to reiterate the key point. But Jack Newton did say, almost word for word, that Noah passed away 4 a.m. At 4 in the morning. For Jack to know that would mean Jack would have been at the highway. An hour and 15 minutes later, at 5:15 in the morning, Jack got back to the party house and announced it to the party goers. So if at 4 in the morning, Jack was already aware, what the hell did Jack do for an hour and 15 minutes? Not even calling in officially to police or anything like that. Was Jack at the scene of Noah's body for 1 hour, 15 minutes in shock, crying, or was he doing other stuff in between? It seems like quite a bit of time has passed by, right? And while some people could say, well, maybe Jack didn't quite mean it like that, or maybe Jack is lying. Well, what is the point stating and claiming it was 4 in the morning? It would be completely pointless. If he was to lie by saying it was 4 in the morning, it would actually make him look more suspicious than if he's claiming to be innocent. So he's not exactly doing himself any favours. But in terms of the traffic situation, if you was to revert back to the original claims early on where Jack was stating how he went to sleep around 2 in the morning, overslept, I think approaching 5:53 or close to that, correct me if I'm wrong, apologies in advance. But yeah, early on in the morning, yet it was 3 in the morning, an hour later, in which Caden Pressey was about to go to sleep at the party house, and he mentioned it in his official statement on Facebook, stating that Jack wasn't asleep before 3 in the morning, making it appear that Jack was lying about going to sleep. Caden also said that 3 in the morning onwards, he was still awake, never went to sleep. Noah was awake as well. All the other partygoers were awake, and some of which were in the kitchen area. So then that kind of rules that out. So from 3 in the morning to 4 in the morning, at some point between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., surely Jack would have left the party house in order to get down to the highway for whatever reason, in order to know that Noah passed away at 4 in the morning, been there, and then an hour and 15 minutes afterwards, then deciding, oh, I best go down to the party house, act all distraught and sad, bury my head into a pillow and let everybody know. That's how it seems to be based off those timestamps in that particular order. But what's the whole significance about Jack originally claiming to have been asleep 2 in the morning onwards and oversleeping? Well, how would Jack know himself if the traffic was busy or not? As it mentions here, zero traffic. Because, as Jack says here, according to the Terrell store cameras. So he's been passed on that information, being told himself, or he's seen the footage himself. How reliable is that Terrell store camera footage? Does it work properly, the camera footage? Or is it as dodgy as the cameras at the party house property? You know? I've not seen the footage myself. I don't know if the CCTV of the store is publicly available. My only other question I had, though, was past the point where the cameras were and beyond where there may have not been any cameras or surveillance, are there any roads or dirt roads in which cars could turn down or pull out of and get onto the highway? Because that's the only other way you could describe a flow of traffic which wasn't identified further back near to town or in town, but onwards then became present and behind the likes of the truck driver, the first caller. So I just want to know your thoughts about that. As for the Texas boys, yeah, it's been referenced here and there, okay, but not as much in depth as maybe people would hope for. As for named individuals, I've not heard any of that personally. But if Jack here is talking about possibly the semi-truck driver could be responsible, or even the Texas boys, if it's the semi-truck driver, is Jack kind of referring to this first caller that called in at the time when he said he couldn't stop because of the cars behind him, right? And as well, some people may have not twisted it, but interpreted it differently and said, well, maybe that guy who was driving down the road, the possible semi-truck driver, if possibly the semi-truck driver or the service truck driver. I don't know if semi-truck and service truck is the same thing. Apologies if they're completely different situations, different types of vehicles. But if Jack was getting across from what's said back here to what could apply to that first caller, and viewers here and there could interpret it as that guy in the first call said he couldn't stop because there were vehicles behind him. If he couldn't stop, if he did do anything himself accidentally or hit anything, then, you know, could that be the link there? But based off the injuries, as said, it doesn't look like a hit and run, and it wouldn't have been a hit and run because he called in anyway, and I think turned back round or so, or the other one did. So it wasn't a matter of just leaving the area and forgetting. No, a call was made, so there was a level of genuinity. As for the voice, the way he was talking, did it sound a bit too casual? I mean, you could argue and say that the first truck driver, the first caller, may have seemed a bit casual because he may have been uncertain as to what it really was. Body or a deer? Deer or a body? Yeah? And to be honest, Tyler Hardy was speaking pretty clear, well-spoken, but still remained somewhat calm. Not exactly panicky. Is that because that could be seen as suspicious, or just because they've seen it before in the past? Who knows? I guess if it was a friend or a family member, completely different scenario, because they would know who that person is, they would be more connected emotionally, and it'd be more emotionally charged and driven, as you would expect. Now, I don't know if I can save this image, view full size. Oh my god, what the hell's going on here? Does it let me save it? There we go, save to photos. I personally don't know if the quality will be negatively impacted or not. I'm sure in the past it would let you save the photo in a different way, but I guess not this time. So it was good of Robin to do that repost of the screenshot, obviously very helpful. Would have popped up here and there in the past if you search for it, but using these like reference points within these discussions, conversations does help, and it will also help people catch up as well along the way. So there is that. So if we're saying that Jack's saying how, well, there's really no traffic at all and the cameras supposedly proved that, but this first caller is claiming that there were, cars behind him, who's telling the truth then? Is it another situation of both people are telling the truth from their own perspectives? It just so happens that a flow of traffic actually came from a different way or somehow avoided those cameras, or that the cameras weren't truly working properly at the time. It can be up for debate, of course. Well, let's just see what else is mentioned, because the main focus is those shorts, right? Read his message, there was no traffic from the time he passed away to when it was called in. That message right there is really fishy. It kind of is, I guess. Everything he says is really fishy, including that he was going fishing. A fishy fish. Because I really don't understand how in the hell your best friend, with whom you are allegedly closer than anyone, is dead or missing, and you know this, but you text your dad about your hat, and why aren't you on the phone reporting your deceased best friend, or the phone reporting that he's missing? Very fishy indeed. I was born in the morning, but not this morning. There we go. I mean, fair points mentioned in a way. I mean, I believe it was Stevie Howard who we looked at recently. Stevie Howard on Brooke Carter, I think, Sofa Sleuths, in which I think it was Stevie Howard, and how she was writing it all up with maybe the odd insult along the way Like, oh, any intelligent person would be able to understand this unless you're not. But with that aside, I think it was Stevie Howard that was kind of discrediting Caden Pressey and saying it wasn't 5:15 but probably 6:15, and that the phone pinged over there at Noah's body later on, 6 a.m. onwards, etc., etc. But in terms of how it was all worded, it was suitable enough to support Jack Newton, or at least make him appear more innocent. So that's probably what Stevie Howard could have been doing. You know, adjusting the timeline to make it more refined, to make it make more sense, and to make Jack look less suspicious. I mean, on the basis that if Jack, and I'm just saying it on the basis, not guaranteed at all, but if Jack only knew about the death of Noah Presgrove 6 in the morning onwards, then it would make the fishing trip far less suspicious. Because the fishing trip was discussed kind of early in the morning, the text at 5:53 mentioning about the trip and I guess where to meet. Caleb added on saying at that time with that text, Jack explained himself that he overslept, hence why moving the location, the meeting point elsewhere. But that wasn't actually mentioned in the text, so I don't know why Caleb in his Facebook statement was adding that extra information on when it wasn't visible in the text. The text itself was very limited. But, you know, based off the timing of it all, 5:53, getting ready, going north to Warwicker Lake, a mile down, then coming across the scene, enough to get out of the vehicle, whether it because the road was closed or blocked off, or it just grabbed the person's attention, getting out, going to the body and then realising who it was, and then Jack being distraught because of that. Yes, that would all make sense, and it would make the fishing trip normal because you were still planning on doing it, but then along the way there was an obstacle, a roadblock. But that just seems a bit too ideal, and because of how Stevie Howard has acted over time, can you really believe in it? It would be fair to say probably not, or you'd just be very sceptical. So to refer back to the original timestamps of 4 in the morning, that's when Jack knew Noah supposedly passed away. And to know that someone passed away would mean you would have to be there to see their final breath, which would probably mean on the highway. An hour and 15 minutes later, 5:15, Jack then decides to think, oh, you know what? After an hour and 15 minutes, I probably should go back to the party house and let people know what's happened. Oh, but by the way, I probably shouldn't make any calls, right? Officially, at least. Yeah, this seems a bit odd. And then onwards after 5:15, with that supposed hidden recorded footage as well, after 5:15, but before 5:46 a.m. of when the first caller called in, passing by the scene, which was possibly that service truck driver. Okay, did Caden see a service truck driver? It was a bit back and forth tussle in the background on Facebook, I believe, but I believe it was ironed out, and I saw a recent comment saying no, they didn't see one another, and that was it. But who knows? So, yeah, based off the 5:15 and the 4 a.m. timestamps, if that's all true and correct in that order specifically, then it does make the fishing trip worse and more dodgy. Because if in 4 in the morning, Jack was already aware that Noah passed away, yet 5:53 was like, yeah, let's do fishing. Oh, I'll meet you down at the ramp. Yeah, come on. And then from 5:53 to 6:05, then to make the calls to the father, Caleb, oh no, bad news. This person's passed away. That's just weird. It's like delaying things, but you knew what happened, so why drag it out? And why proceed on with that fishing trip if you know what's happened? And why proceed on with that fishing trip? In a way, give false hopes or a false heads up to your father in, right, I'll meet you down there. And then only for like 10, 15 minutes later to then be like, oh, you know what? I already knew, but I best tell people, such as my father, even though I said we'll go fishing. All of a sudden, he's dead. We can't do it now. It's a bit silly. Unless Jack wanted to use the fishing trip as some kind of alibi. But I'd say it would have backfired in a way. I think it would have backfired, or it has. Joyce, I've tried to keep an open mind for Jack Newton, but this mind keeps closing more and more. I do believe Caden Pressey and Tyler Hardy. I just watch and listen. Fair enough. How does Jack Newton know there was zero traffic from the time he died until called in? Remember, he says he didn't get there until after 6 a.m. Fishing trip, bring me a hat. You can have it both ways, Jack Newton. But, 5:15 and 4 a.m., those timestamps go against the phishing thing and make the phishing thing look more fishy and dodgy. And a bit about the traffic. Does that make him look dodgy? Would you have to be on site to see whether traffic passed by or not? No. Someone else could tell you whether there was traffic passing by or not at a specific time. Would that be credible enough? I mean, if you've seen the footage yourself, the actual CCTV footage, then you could relay it online and say, such and such, no traffic here in between this time. I was supposedly asleep at the party house, so I didn't see it myself. People online could say, so how do you know then? And then that person could respond back and say, because I looked at the actual footage which I reached out to or which was provided to me for a perspective, right? It's like me, I'm not even from the US, but I could state something as a fact, providing I've seen it firsthand myself. You get what I'm saying? And people could respond back and say, how would you even know Warlike Rath? You weren't even there at the time. You're not even from that country, nor that state or that town. So how would you know? It's because the relevant key important information out there has come to me. Not that it has, I'm just giving you a scenario. So the same could apply to Jack with the traffic report. You could be asleep or you could be awake. You don't have to be in the area to know whether traffic come by or not, as long as you see the actual relevant, footage to say what comes and what goes, what comes in and out. That should be enough, unless it's limited the footage. If the footage wasn't quite working properly, or if there were any additional roads further up the highway or so, any dirt roads where vehicles could pull out and they would be out of sight from the camera, those could be exceptions, okay? So that's my reasoning, just for now. But let's just say 4 a.m. and Jack is at the highway to have noticed Noah passing away at that time. Jack probably would have had to have had his phone with him to know the time, the exact time of when Noah passed away, and to have your phone, surely it would have pinged near to the body. And if it did ping near to the body, it should have given a rough timestamp, which would have been earlier on, roughly 4 a.m. That could confirm whether Jack was telling the truth or not about Noah passing away at 4 a.m. For Jack to give that specific time, he would have had to have known the time himself at that moment. And because you're on a highway, there's no clocks laying about. There's no cuckoo clocks. Big Ben is not around. So you'd have to use your own phone to check the time. Just like how Caden Pressey did an hour and 15 minutes afterwards when Jack came back to the party house and let the people know what happened. So, yeah. Robin, I understand I've been through extremely traumatic situations, including finding a loved one dead, so I know trauma can change our responses. I also understand the aging brain and how it affects our decision-making skills, but there's still something off here. At the very least, a call should have been made to authorities as soon as it was evident Noah was unaccounted for. Fair points. It's hard going through something traumatic. Okay. I'm trying to figure out too, the highway goes north and south. It connects several towns to each other. The Tyrrell cameras might not have shown vehicles, but that doesn't mean vehicles couldn't have come from other directions and turned onto the road of the party. Maybe. That's kind of like what I've been pointing across in a way. Okay. How does he know what time he passed? Was he there? He would have had to have been. Cameras, okay. Can't but feel this was code. Have you ever heard the saying, you don't mess with a cowboy's hat? There was zero reason for a response after his dad said, okay. Yeah. I mean, what happened to Noah's hat? Is that still missing? Where did that go? I mean, if boys are coming from Bowie, they'd have to go through, how the hell do you say that? Twow? Or do you mean, does this person mean Tyrrell, but they spelt it wrong? I thought it was the name of something else. As for Nakona or St. Joe Boys, they could have went through Spanish forts and over to the bridge that comes into Courtney, Oklahoma and over. I don't understand why they'd come that way if it was an accident. Why not tell the story of what happened? As for the cameras in Tyrrell at the store or casino, they won't show who put Noah Presgrove down the highway. Right. I think it was code as well. Don't bring the boat. Someone came by. So does anyone else who's watching at some point or watching right now, do you think the hat situation where Jack said, oh, my hat was messed with at the party or so, do you think that's code word for something? Where do you think the hat really is? Anyway, I hear you. That should have been that he should have been with the day planned. It said the devil in the details. Okay, so we move on. Christina. Tyler Hardy gave a statement to media where he said he was behind the semi that eventually turned around. Also, allegedly, there was another very young man in a pickup truck that heard about Noah afterwards and notified authorities that he drove through at the time, but didn't realise it was a body he seen. I guess he's been ruled out from what I read. Right, some interesting points there, I guess. We'll have to try and work this out. Tyler Hardy gave a statement to media. Yeah, that's quite vague, that. Giving a statement to media. What media? Social media? A media platform? Facebook? Daily Mail? The dodgy one? Or something else? Can we elaborate on this, maybe? So Tyler Hardy, where he supposedly was behind the semi-truck. If he was supposedly behind the semi-truck, does that link in with the actual semi-truck driver calling on in and saying how there's a handful of vehicles behind him, cars or so? I mean, I believe Tyler Hardy was in a Ford F-150, which is, I guess, like a pickup truck, but not an actual semi-truck or, a big trucker, anything like that. So, okay, maybe. But isn't it interesting how at 5:46, and then the other one was at 5:53, would it be enough time between the two calls if they're both close to each other, but the calls were done at different times apart? Would that make sense? And how would someone like Tyler Hardy give a better description, more detailed about the shorts being in the middle of the road, yet someone like the supposed first caller, maybe, who was in front of Tyler, supposedly, how would they not notice it themselves? You would actually think that if there was a line of vehicles, and because your vision is obstructed, especially if you're behind a big semi-truck or so, that someone like Tyler Hardy in his situation, how would he be able to notice the shorts on the road? Because by the time you've driven past and you've got a big truck in front of you, you probably would have been too focused on making sure you don't rear end the truck in front of you and maybe glancing to the side. But as for the first caller, who's at the front of the convoy, if you want to word it like that, they would have the best front row seats because they see to their right, or the left, whichever one it was now. But they would also notice, they should have noticed the shorts on the ground. You think of the stopping distance, you think of the distance between vehicle to vehicle, you don't always see what's in front of you or what's being approached on the road until it's too late. It's kind of like if you had a vehicle in front which then suddenly swerved around because there was a random car or person right in front. As for the second driver and third driver behind, they probably wouldn't have enough time to react to swerve around, because by the time the first driver swerved about, the second one only then sees it and doesn't see it in advance, so they'd probably make contact. It's kind of like that, blinded, blurred vision, obstructions, slower reaction time. So it just wouldn't make sense at all if Tyler's got limited vision in terms of what you can see in front of him, yet he was able to give a detailed description of what was on the road. And the time difference between 5:46, the first caller, and 5:53, the third caller. A bit of time's passed by, enough time to pass by if you were close together and driving by. Let's just see what else. Where did that information come from? I've been following closely. I read it in another post. So you mean on Facebook? Not sure which group. Not sure which group. That could be important though, right? Is it on one of the fake pages, one of the dodgy pages, or the family run one? I wonder. I'm in a few. I guess it was something that came up and was quickly ruled out. I also heard that because they initially were calling this a hit and run, the guy thought he could have hit Noah and not known it. Yeah, this was stated by Brooke Bounds Carter. Oh no, not Brooke Carter. I think a few people have been a bit critical of her because she's been a bit dodgy, supposedly. So Brooke Carter, that said a young man thought he hit Noah but didn't see anything or see any damage on his vehicle. I asked her if she reported it or he reported it, and she said yes, but it was brushed off as being nothing. I also read that the young man felt horribly guilty until police actually ruled him out. Not sure how or when, but my guess would be they inspected his vehicle or something. I guess it was garbled info right there. What's this? Right, we'll get to that shortly. But in terms of a brief backstory behind Brooke Bounds Carter, she is a part of the Sofa Sleuths Facebook page, in which Stevie Howard is a part of. And I heard it mentioned elsewhere that Brooke Bounds Carter is a friend of Stevie Howard. And if that's actually true, well, be cautious. What else do we have here? Caller Chris Payette. Phone call number received today at 2:50 p.m. Disposition information taken. RP states he believes he hit a hog or something this morning, but has found out that his friend may have been hit this morning. Wanted to make sure he didn't hit him. Okay. Guess that's like a reference. Is there a bit more here? Chris Payette. No. Oh, wait, why was there two photos? Was it the same thing? Oh, have I got double vision or something? Maybe it was posted twice. Just for your information, Tyler... there we go. Mallory coming on in again. Mallory Hardy, the wife to Tyler Hardy. Mallory says, just for your information, Tyler has never given any statements to the media, such as Daily Mail. To anyone in the media at that. He has made a few comments in here on the Presgrove Army Facebook page on post a couple months ago, but that's it. We have both received several calls and messages from people in the media, and he is not interested in talking with any of them at this time. Just wanted to clarify that for anyone. Well, that's good that Mallory cleared that up, given more context now, because it was lacking back then when I checked. So when I was falsely accused of being a naughty boy for looking at the Daily Mail article, even though I did a fair analysis on the matter and I looked at it at the time of when they edited out some of the misinformation, I put across the possibility that Daily Mail was possibly getting those comments mentioned by Tyler on the Facebook page and then rewording it and re-quoting it as if it was from a direct interview, which it wasn't. So it looks like I might have been right, possibly. Interesting. Christina, I came across an article titled something like "Witness Who Found Victim Speaks Out," and it was written like they quoted him. Daily Mail? Laura, sounds more like a hit than a run. It was a discussion under another post I read. Don't know if any have been substantiated. Okay. Yes, ma'am. The Daily Mail is the one who posted that, then others picked it up as well. They've changed the article to make it reflect the comments he found of Tyler speaking these groups. To kind of clean up after themselves so they don't appear as bad. I don't believe they or any of the others ever changed their title though, but the reporter did edit his original post. But I can assure you Tyler's not spoken to any reporters, media, just the few comments he has made. So basically Mallory is in a way confirming that the comments from the Facebook page by Tyler explaining the situation were reposted, re-quoted on Daily Mail, and they just simply made it look like an interview, but then they've changed it since. So this seems to confirm that in the end, that Daily Mail article, as dodgy as it was at first and misinformation they cleaned up after themselves after, that's still not the point, it's bad, but, you know, they've cleaned themselves up after, cleaned the article up. So by the time Warlike Ref came on in to analyse it, I did nothing wrong. Well, there we go. This is all about reinforcing it over and over again from the key points of views, and that's exactly what's been done right now, all under control. What else do we have? I'm really, really surprised since the party goes and family know this, they're not using to continue. All right. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong? I thought Hardy or Pressy has pretty good conversation. I think that's been cleared up there. So, did Ellie rule out that this guy hit Noah? Did they find hog, other animals? Unknown, but I don't think it would take 10 months if this guy did it, just my opinion. There we go, fair point. Exactly, I believe Tyler Hardy, first caller, sounds off, in my opinion. Red flag. Right, okay. Interesting. Well, when we heard that first call, he was like, "Oh, hello, I'm driving down North Trail, I'm heading on down, I came across, I think it was a deer, or it may have been a body, it was on the side of the road shoulder, it was a little odd, awfully odd, yeah." Personally, I think that was actually a pretty good representation out of that accent, but that's what it seemed to come across as. Could you argue and say that the person was drunk at the time Well, if he was, that would have been a bit naughty, right? Calling whilst driving, maybe. But then again, I don't know if he was actually driving whilst calling. But yeah, it probably was, actually. But maybe he wasn't drunk. It's just his tone of voice, his accent, who knows? Could be because he's older, sometimes older people, the way they talk. Or it could simply be because the person's not got many teeth. That can alter the person's voice, how they pronounce things, possibly. But what about the actual tone in general? Did the person sound a bit too calm? Almost sounded a little bit dipsy or dumb? Like, oh, I think it was this, I think it was that. But then again, would you expect to come across a body down a highway? Is it on the top of your priorities, especially at early hours of the morning? Could it be a bit of a shock or surprise? I know some were also calling out and questioning the dispatch caller as if she wasn't taking it serious. But then I'm sure in the UK, when it comes to other calls and other things going on, they don't always take it that serious. And there might be a bit of a delay. Do they play dumb on purpose, or they're just dumb in general? Who knows? Open for interpretation. Do I think that the first caller was suspicious? I mean, if the person was suspicious, what does it actually lead to? Does it imply that the first caller being suspicious must be the one responsible for killing Noah or disposing of Noah? But then, if that really was the case, surely there would have been looked into by now, or there would have been more to follow up from since. And from 5:46 to 5:53, a short space of time in between as well with that second caller who we don't really know of. What else would have happened? When you look at the description given by the first caller, some of which is similar to what Tyler Hardy mentioned himself about, wasn't sure if it was a deer or like a body, and that dispatcher said, oh yeah, that's what the first caller mentioned as well. So they're on the same wavelength. That a body was found on the shoulder, just like how Tyler described. The only difference was that Tyler mentioned that shorts were in the middle of the road. So besides the tone of voice, I know it's just an opinion what Justin Roy says here. I believe the first caller sounds off in my opinion, but I do believe Tyler Hardy. But I would argue and say, if you believe what Tyler Hardy says, and some of which the descriptions are consistent with what the first caller said, then you would have a bit of hope in the first caller as well, based off the consistency. What I'd argue and say is, isn't it weird for Tyler Hardy to mention shorts being in the middle of the road? Isn't that very weird and random? If supposedly before 5:46 but after 5:15 and when Caden was ordered to leave the highway, that supposedly that hidden recorded footage showed somebody replace shorts, and when replacing them, white ones of Noah's folded nearby to the body on the side, the shoulder, the highway. So if before 5:46 you had white shorts on the side, the shoulder of the highway, and then at 5:53 they magically end up walking across the road, the little magical shorts, and then flop about onto the middle of the road. Wow, more magical than Aladdin's carpet and less skid marks as well. That's hard to believe. What about all the tyre marks if any vehicles were passing on by, such as Tyler Hardy himself? Okay, did Tyler Hardy run over the shorts, or did he swerve around them? Or just miss them and was completely unaware? Must have been aware enough though to notice them in time. Or did he notice them once he parked up? That's a possibility. And if Tyler noticed them when he did park up and inspect the body, did he touch the shorts or did he leave them where they were? That's the other question, right? What else do we have? Carol, was there a report of a white car? Justin, not sure. Caleb Newton, quote, jumped in his wife's car. What's the wife's car? What's the colour of it? Casey Burton, yes, and her car is white. Why would... Ashley Schaefer, someone somewhere did mention a white car because I remember her saying it was possibly Jack Newton's girlfriend's car. I remember hearing a reference to that. Where she got the information, I have no idea. So it's not exactly reinforced enough at this moment in time. A little bit messy, but if we can work off from it, maybe it can be established a bit more and somehow link. Caleb and Daddy Daryl in Mama's car. I'd like to know what role Daryl Newton played in his recollection of events. Who the hell's Daryl? I've not heard of Daryl before. Daddy Daryl. Yeah, does anyone know who Daryl is? If anyone clear that up. Oh, could Daryl be the grandfather of Jack Newton? I don't know. Casey, they sure did. I believe Caden Pressey when he said he saw Noah in black shorts. Okay. I also believe Tyler Hardy when he said he found Noah naked. Fair enough. Those white shorts were supposed to go on Noah. Someone removed Noah's black shorts to put on the white ones. They either couldn't get them on Noah's body because too much time passed by, or someone got spooked and the plans were scrapped. Interesting reasoning. So the white shorts were just thrown on the road instead. Yeah, but how come it's been mentioned as to were folded up, unless they were folded up afterwards? I think someone putting his shoes back on after removing the black shorts was an oops. They simply were not thinking when they did that. I mean, do we have any touch-based DNA to suggest that there's been any fingerprints or touches onto the shoes? And to be honest, you can get shorts on and off, even if you're wearing shoes. The only time when you might have trouble putting on trousers, pants, jeans, jogging bottoms, if you're a female, or maybe male, leggings, the tightness of them, the length of them. Can you get them over your shoes? Not always. It could get stuck, it could tear, it could rip. So you take your shoes off and put everything else on. But if you're putting on shorts, which can be kind of wide and loose and not too tight, you could easily get them over your shoes. You wouldn't need to take them off at all. What else do we have? I believe Caden. I think they removed the black shorts and Tyler Hardy or the first vehicle was coming and they tossed the white shorts in the road and hid somewhere. You think they hid in the bushes? But if they did hide in the bushes, from 5:46 to 5:53, what, they would have remained hidden in the bushes or then moved away? Because this is the thing. If they were on site, they would have had to have got down there somehow via a vehicle. They don't just walk down the highway, do they? Because they would probably end up in a compromising situation. So if whoever and whatever was tampering with Noah's body just before 5:46, time went on a little bit too long, let's just put it like that, and then suddenly they've had to scarper or hide, well, the vehicle probably still would have been there for them to get transported down to the place of the body, so that when that first caller and truck driver was passing on by, he would have clearly said, oh, there's a truck just parked up, or there's a car parked up on the side next to the body. I didn't want to hit it. And even at 5:53, when Tyler came on by, no reports of seeing anyone or seeing any vehicles parked up immediately. So, you know, we've taken into mind LE. It's pretty short. I remember reading that some official on scene picked up white shorts from middle of the road, folded them and placed them next to the body. Can't speak to the truth of this, but I know I read it. But it would be good to know where it directly came from though. If an official picked up white shorts in the road, folded them and put them by the body, they can't do that. They block the road from both ends, mark everything with numbered tags and take photos. Yeah, like a crime scene, I get that. They'd be total idiots if they did any other way. Agree, but nothing has been adhered to from the scene, protecting collection and chain of custody for evidence. I have no problem believing this happened, and yes, it goes against every rule of crime scene investigation 101. Did you hear either completely untrained or unprofessional dispatchers? They do it for every scene, even accident scene, small town, unknown how big the county is, but yes, unprofessional dispatcher by the sound of it. Tracy. Yes, I was totally shocked that the dispatcher did not even know which way Highway 81 ran. I literally could not believe it. I know in the rural areas there's lots of little side roads that are usually a long number, but I thought a dispatcher had to be at least know where a major highway ran, and then might have to possibly ask about side streets also, in saying that the caller even stated going to Terrell from Ryan. She should have at least recognised the names of small towns. I'm also aware when calling 911 that the calls are somehow directed to a different location from the caller, so I'd be interested to know what facility she actually worked out of. I recently got into a little fender bender. 911 was called from Duncan, and I believe through my insurance agency the dispatch that took the call was from was at Oklahoma City or close to that area. Once street names was given, she obviously put it into her computer base, and instantly the information pulled up exactly where or little wrecks had happened. Therefore, she dispatched the DPD officers instantly. Even our 911 operator asked these questions. Was both parties okay? Do we need an ambulance? Is there any vehicle blocking any major roadways to cause any other accidents? Do you want me to stay on the phone with you until law enforcement arrives? Okay. Well, Sam was screaming and cursing at me, so that sort of scared me more than a little rat did. Right? 911 operators were very knowledgeable and very attentive to even a small, hardly no damage at all wreck. Maybe due to an open investigation, we did not hear all of that 911 call. But if she would have handled it right, she would have asked Hardy to go see if Noah was by any chance breathing, and depending on what stated by Hardy, she should have had him attempt CPR until officers arrived and stayed on the phone with him until they did arrive. Again, maybe she did advise him to do so. Maybe he got out to check for pulse and body. But, you know, if you say there's a dead body on the side, the dispatcher, well, you could say, well, check if the patient or the person's breathing. If you say there's a dead person on the side, that dispatcher probably should say, don't do anything, don't touch anything. If there is a dead body, could be a crime scene. You start touching, giving CPR or giving a kiss of life or so, you could contaminate the body. And what good does that do? And, giving a CPR can cause ribs to break. And then if Tyler Hardy was already giving a CPR and then ribs were broken, then that could mess up with the autopsy report and the cause of it. Maybe I'm going too far there, but, in the early stages, it could have led to a misinterpretation. And let's not forget about that caller number 2, who's not been exactly revealed nor mentioned in that caller audio video, what we've heard recently. Who knows what was talked about in that call? Maybe more detail was given than the first and the third. You never know, and that's why we've not heard about it just yet. Tyler Hardy stated that a P/U pulled up. A male jumps out, ran straight to the body, PU'd the shorts, and replaced them with another pair. I didn't save that. I have no clue what's going on here. I understand it to be a female that exited the passenger side, went straight to the body and retrieved something and got back into the car and they drove off. A female, you say? Interesting. Is that hearsay or was that proven somewhere? I believe it was on one of the podcasts. Is that reliable enough, though? We need to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, and if not that, we need, photos, videos, screenshots, like with some of the other points mentioned, right? Again, I think someone needs to speak with this lady. She saw the side-by-side in the area. How many were in it? What colour was it? Which way was it going? They were probably removing the black shorts. What's mentioned here? Did the semi-driver recall seeing anyone or vehicle or UTV? This is justice for Noah Presgrove, which is the family-run one, which is interesting. Dominga Torres says, one of my friends said she was on her way to work that morning and seen a side-by-side pass her on the highway around 5 in the morning or so. She remembers this because it came out of nowhere and scared the crap out of her. How does it come out of nowhere, right? I mean, on the highway, which either goes north or south, kind of pretty much a straight highway, and then you say you just came across it and it came out of nowhere. How does that happen when you've got a straight road? Or, was there a turnabout or so? You say around 5 in the morning or so. Well, that would be before Jack made it back to the party house to tell people of the news. Interesting, right? Kind of ties in possibly. But this Dominga Torres speaking on behalf of her friend, one of her friends, how come this friend hasn't come forward themselves? If the horse's mouth, and I'm not calling them a horse, it's just a line used when describing directly from the witness. If there's someone that saw something of relevance or possible importance, then why aren't they talking? Why does this friend have to act like some kind of third-party representative? That's what I don't get. If you know something, or you feel somewhat confident, or you find it of somewhat interest, and you made a reference, there should be a little bit more push and shove as, maybe come forwards. Not directly publicly, but even just in the background, right? It's like if I find stuff, or if I pick up on things during an analysis, I'll do a video, I'll cover it, give a different point of view, and then share it to people. It can be helpful, it could go a long way, you never know. So, once again, kind of interested in that. Maybe try and save the post if it will allow me, because you never know, it could come in handy. Let's get off that. There we go. Reply. Do you know if the lady reporting this has given the name of the friend that actually saw this? Because without her friend actually speaking up, it would be her saying, I believe Hardy has no reason to lie. It all doesn't add up. The first caller sounds young. Maybe someone made that call when they seen the semi pass and go and try and put it off. It was hit by accusing. Doesn't make sense. He texted his dad and said nothing because they didn't. Okay, here's the biggest outlier about the first call. He states a line of cars behind him. Anyone that has been on the stretch of the road that late knows. Do you know what? Whilst I've been asking questions, are there any turnabout points? Could you get on from anywhere else? I might as well put it into motion. I can do my own little map analysis shortly. Biggest eye-opener yet. No traffic from time he passed away till he was called in. It states another message at 4 a.m. Oh, do we actually have it here? This could be important because I said I was going to try and look for it, didn't I? I'm just trying to look for the time. Which one was it mentioned in? No, because there was zero traffic. Was it actually mentioned as a reference or not? Seen him unseen, found him. Cops ruled him out. How come I can't see it? Man, I seen him unseen. I found him. Yeah, but what about the time? It was mentioned. Yeah, that's the lake thing. We've already seen that. Driver. No, because there was zero traffic. Right, so it's been referenced, but not the actual bloody conversation of the screenshot, or maybe I've not seen it myself. Because when people do highlight text and bloody draw all over it, it can be a bit messy, right? That's why what I try and do nowadays is I use just a little red thin line to, highlight the key points mentioned. Because when you start colouring it all in, it gets a bit messy, doesn't it? I found him. But just in, I'd really tell cops if I knew anything. I went to sleep early because I was going fishing with my dad. There we go. I went to bed a little before 1 a.m, even though at the party house, Jack says, I went to bed a little before 1 a.m. Let me save this post if it will allow me. Please, let me save it. Or is it going to be awkward? Huh. Is it really not going to let me save the image? Ah, there we go. Fine. No, I don't want to do that. I wanted to save the image for a reference, but it won't allow me. Naughty. But, why won't it allow me though? Sometimes when you go to the comment section, maybe it'll show up more there, but it doesn't. These messages cannot be verified. They're from Jack. This is not credible. What? These are all credible. They've been checked and verified to be credible in previous posts with the same screenshots. No, they have not. The name is scratched out. Just because it's been circulated does not render it authentic. What do you mean the person's name's been scratched out? The person that asked is Justin Roy. Yeah, in the third screenshot, where it being circled in blue. Yeah, maybe Sherry has misunderstood the situation. Can you verify the text message for Sherry? Justin says, why? Everyone knows they're mine. Been mine for 10 months now. Well, there we go. Okay, so yeah, what's mentioned here is kind of like what we've been talking about. How the hell would anyone know if there was any traffic if they were allegedly home sleeping? Well, they can be told from the cameras, so that would actually make sense. You don't have to be there. But the most important thing is that whilst Jack originally claiming to be asleep 1 a.m, or then changing the story to sleeping 2 a.m. at the party house, yet Caden Pressey 3 a.m. in the morning, when Noah was still alive and still at the party, Caden said that Jack was still awake. So Jack didn't go to sleep before that because Caden clearly saw that Jack was awake. So Jack was lying about that. At what time onwards did Jack go to sleep? Who knows? But yeah, there's some incorrect stuff mentioned. But now the 911 caller who couldn't do anything because there were cars behind him. Well, what could he do? Well, I was going to say no traffic, but then traffic. Which is it? So either Jack, who says from what he's seen as for the footage that there was no traffic at all, or from what this first caller said about there was traffic behind him. One is telling the truth, the other one's lying. Could there be like some kind of middle ground to suggest both are correct in different ways? I wonder. Oh, Justin, what a tangled web we weave. How do you know this info? Sorry, please remind me. I don't know. Where can I find the calls? There we go. Yeah. That's a long one, isn't it? Texas boys. Okay. I was just hoping to be able to get one of those bloody screenshots, and it just won't allow me. It's weird because there would have been that option to view more, but it doesn't allow it. And I'm tapping on the screen like a... Oh well. So nevertheless, you can still see it. 5:15 in the morning of this text conversation. As for the actual day, I don't know if it will mention that, but Jack Newton, his Facebook profile at the time. Profile picture may have changed since, but nevertheless. And then from the point of view also Justin Royback got hold of these screenshots, I believe, because he was involved in this text conversation with Jack, trying to figure out what's going on. Jack Newton says, "Man, I seen him on the scene. I found him. He wasn't beat him on his face." That makes no sense. And how it's spelt here, poor language. And the cops ruled out him being beat. Really? It's interesting how Jack early on says, and the cops ruled out Noah Presgrove being beaten to death. Just so happened that Caleb Newton was told the same thing, the father. Convenient. But Justin, you know I'd really tell the cops if I knew anything. I went to sleep early because I was going fishing with my dad. And yet Caden Pressey said you lied. You did not sleep early. You were still awake. Jack, I know what a beat up face looks like, and the back of his head was smashed in. What time is early, bro? How early? I went to bed a little before 1. Incorrect. He passed away around 4 in the morning. Around 4 in the morning, so that's like a rough estimation. But nevertheless, it's still early in the morning, right? At a time when other people weren't aware. Walked away from the house around 3:30, according to everyone there. But I seen him, he wasn't beat up. Right, so the bit about 3:30 is the original timestamp of what I heard of. And that's why I reference it over and over again. And granted, of course, if Jack has lied about one thing in his text conversation about sleeping early, and it turned out to be false because that's what Caden saw. Caden saw Jack awake at the party, 1, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning awake. Does it mean to say that the 3:30 timestamp provided by Jack is a lie as well? You'd hope to think there's some truth behind it, because sometimes you can have like a paragraph or level of text where there's some truth scattered within where the rest of the lies crowd it. So you got to look in between the lines, right? I mean, at 3:30, Noah supposedly left, as Jack says here. Well, about 10, 11 minutes later, 3:40, 3:41, that's when Jasmine Millan was on the front porch and did a Snapchat post saying, well, Noah's missing. So, could possibly timeline, couldn't it? From a different perspective. But to say that Noah passed away around 4 in the morning. So to put it in reality, we did like a comparison. 4 a.m. in the morning, Noah passes away. What does Jack do? Jack all. Jack shit. Oops. And then fast forward to 5:46 a.m. That's quite some time, right? Like an hour and 46 minutes later, nearly 2 hours later. 2 hours have passed by since Noah passed away, and then it took a general public stranger to call in officially. Granted, there could have been some dodgy stuff that went on just after 5:15. Yeah, someone could have came on down, but still, how long did it take? It still took some time. There was a time difference between 4. So whether you call it a 2-hour time difference between when he was actually called in by a stranger as a body on the side, or just simply an hour and 15 minutes later when informally Jack made people at the party aware as to what happened. It's still long enough for time to pass by, right? Normally you come across a dead body, whether you know them or not, you tend to be proactive and do something and reach out for some help for the sake of yourself or for that person. And that wasn't the case here, at least from how it's worded. Not a good look. Now, with that being in mind, I think we should probably focus on the map just briefly now, just to look at the road, the highway, and any turnabouts. Well, here we are. And if I just zoom in quickly, I did make some altercations because I had to adjust some of the timestamps ever since from learning. So September 4th, of course. Noah's body, somewhat early in the morning, found 5:46 a.m. And when I mean found by, a passerby, maybe the white service truck driver. First caller, 5:46 a.m. Second caller, unknown because it wasn't revealed or explained, Third final called at 5:53 a.m. TH equals Tyler Hardy. Just thought I'd put that in as a line. 6:05. I just put it nearby so it doesn't clutter on screen. 6:05. Jack shows up at the scene, and supposedly the first time round he hears about it because he's upset, distraught, calls his father. Yet, as we've seen with that quote earlier on, Jack, he passed away around 4 in the morning. So it would imply that Jack has been there at least 2 times. 4 in the morning and then at 6:05. Anywhere in between? I'm not too sure, personally. White shorts folded near to the body, as we've seen. Oh, I do need to check the autopsy, don't I? Go back over that. I really hope I've still got the screenshot somewhere. I'll try and find out shortly. But yeah, what's the significance of this area? Well, we said that from the looks of it, the first driver was on the right-hand side of the road, driving down, passed by the body, had to turn around, I think, had cars behind him, which, okay, granted, we don't see any here at this point, but that's just because of street view. It's not exactly the same time or day, of course, but, you know, one thing to put in perspective, this is morning time or afternoon. You know, it's very bright, colourful, open, and yet how many vehicles are passing on by? Not a lot, is there? So for the first caller to say, oh, yeah, I'm heading down north, I'm south of Terrell, and there's vehicles behind me. Interesting. And if Jack passing, you know, with the information passed on from him from the mini-mart, is the mini-mart down here? Oh my God, if my things be flashing. Mini-mart, Assembly of God. Well, we don't quite want that, but the mini-mart shop or somewhere down here with the cameras. Okay. We could always do a separate video on it if you wanted, but roughly in this area. I probably could type it in, but I don't want it to kick me off anywhere. Ah, is that it? Oh, did I find it? Hole in one? Maybe not. Did I say mini-mart? Actually, God, that does look a bit dodgy and rough. I mean, I'm only looking very briefly, okay? No, that definitely isn't it. It looks more like a bloody garage. Is it the next one? Is this the mini-mart? Oh no, what's happened to the quality? Does that say mini-mart? Hunt Brothers Pizza. Is that mini-mart? Can anyone confirm that? Because I'm only looking brief. If it's got cameras on, do I see any cameras? Any cameras? Any cameras at all? Welcome to Terrell, Oklahoma. Does that say Hunt? I just don't know why there's no bloody sign. Why does it not say? UNL. It'd be funny if there was a massive sign somewhere and I completely ignored it. That'd be just typical. But nevertheless, a place like this, as example, you would think would have cameras. Would it show much coming on by? Well, from that direction, that road, because it's a crossroad, across the railroad tracks. Yeah, you get a pretty good view. So from here onwards, facing that way, is looking north towards the party house and onwards where the body was. Any vehicles coming from up this way, driving down that way, as you can see. But are there any roads past the point where they would be out of reach from the camera view? Yeah. What about just here, on the side of that dirt road? At least from what I can see, there are no cameras in this spot. Even if the mini-mart is down there, are there any cameras in a specific spot? Any? Doesn't look like it. All you need is a blind spot with a road which comes off, such as right there. Is it a private road? I don't know. Is it a cut-off, turn-off point? That's a land for sale. So, did any trucks come on down here? Such as that service truck driver, the first caller, heading on down that way north, and then cars collected behind him. But surely they would have come from down that way in which the cameras were at, supposedly. But there was no traffic reported, so they must have come from elsewhere or appeared somewhere. So what about this side road here for some of the vehicles? Where does it actually go? Well, it kind of goes into the town, doesn't it? But like a back route round the back. Interesting, because when they say there was no traffic on the highway, but what about traffic coming in and out or just driving about the town area? That could be a different reference. So because there's that like little back route which you can go into the town, which can cut out some of the distance and maybe cut out the surveillance compared to going all the way down this highway. I might do a separate video about this, granted. There you go. Not the best road. That's the highway there. You can drive down here like how this Google car did. What the hell's that? Did I see like a doll or something? Oh no, it's Blue Branch. That was weird. But you see, drive down this like country road, kind of narrow. But if there's no cameras round here, let's just say, someone or some of the cars could have been driven down here to get onto the highway, which actually avoids the cameras over down that way along the main part of the road. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I was saying. Are there any dirt roads that come off? Do we have any more further down? We don't, because it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? As you see. Though, you got that on there, that dirt road. Let's see what that's all about. Okay, well, it's off-road. Off-road is off-road, but I don't think you're allowed down there. You'd probably get in trouble. Private, maybe. Some skid marks. Well, yeah, maybe skid marks, or some dragging, probably for tractors, farmers, hence that tractor over there. Okay, so we exclude that one. Not far from the party house, you got that building there on the right, which, who does this belong to? Anyone from here that went down to the party house down that way? Or completely irrelevant? Looks like a place where someone, would they live at or just work at? There appears to be a mailbox, so it could imply that they could live here, like an antennae or some kind of signal. Yeah, it could well live there, possibly. So there is a property nearby. Witnesses? I don't know about that. Cameras? Any cameras on that property? Hard to tell. If there was any cameras on that property, they could have been used to see if any traffic was coming or going from down this highway, because north over that way is approaching that party house. Okay, there you go. That's the place there, facing forwards. There's all the markers ahead, so you get an idea. Apologies if I'm going through it quick, but this was just like a brief summary, and because I've become a bit more experienced with the area, I can recount things quicker. But if you do want a slow video, maybe marked out and everything, I can always do so. I could even title it The Blind Spots of the Road. Let me know if you want to see something like that. But there you go. One of the first key dirt roads which you can turn off, which is way, how would you word it? Far away from Terrell in terms of cameras, close enough to the party house, just there, and the body over that way, just over a mile. So where does this dirt road go to, and can you just drive down it like anyone? Or you're not allowed to? Let's see. I mean, there's a chance that anyone can drive down it from the looks of it, and it covers quite a bit of distance. So more cars could have pulled out from here, in which when the first caller was driving on down, passed by, and then maybe some cars from down there pulled out and followed him because they were on the way down to somewhere. Hence why the truck driver collected a mass of other drivers behind him, right? So there are roads to turn off. Once you get past the cameras and you get to the blind spot, there are still roads you can turn down. Now, unfortunately, there's no street view down there. But what I will do out of interest is just have a look down it, just in case you're not allowed to. But bloody hell, this does cover quite a bit of distance, doesn't it? Comes to this point, a dirt road crossroad. Probably can't go down that way because it might be private. You could go down that way, possibly. You just keep on driving down, which leads up to, from the looks of it, some kind of farm and building established, as you can see. So someone's allowed to come down here at least. It keeps going all the way down. You get the idea, don't you, to this road here, another dirt one. Is it private land? I'm not too sure. If anyone can fill that in, that would be appreciated. But It's all about, are there any turn points? Are there any alternative roads which drivers could come out from or drive down? Avoid any detection of cameras, because this part of the highway there's no surveillance, there's no cameras. So it's okay to say back into rail, no traffic has come on down or passed on through. But what about beyond? What about on the highway, the stretch where there's no cameras, where there's dirt roads and roads which do pull out, right? Do we have any more of them? Bloody hell, stop spinning about, bitch. Can't go that way. Okay, past this point. There we go. Another kind of crossroad in a way. That way down there, in which, is that the one to do with the quarry? Yes, it is, the quarry or mine. So obviously you wouldn't be driving down that way, but obviously vehicles can pull out or go in. But what about opposite it? Then you go. You got another open dirt road. I don't see any private signs, so anyone could drive down there, come out there. And you know what the key thing is? It's still before the body, right? It's still before the body. So we've seen at least 2 to 3 different dirt roads on the right side of the road in which the truck driver was driving down the highway. At any point of these sections or roads, cars could have pulled out from and got behind the truck driver, hence why the driver said, I can't slow on down because there's vehicles behind me. And when the likes of Jack Newton and whoever else says, well, at the mini-mart, it basically said there was no traffic. Yeah, maybe from your end there was no traffic, but further on, there could have been. Right? That could explain some of the reasons, at least. Hopefully people understand this little road tour. And then once we get to the body bit, well, beyond, the next point is up here, and that's past the body, so that would probably be irrelevant. But you do get these decent size, long-length country roads, right? Once again. That's looking south, down towards the body and the party house beyond. You get the idea. This is like the, I guess, viewpoint perspective of Tyler Hardy coming on down. Driving on down and eventually coming across. Ah, there we go. We actually get an example of a truck. Can we get close to it? Is this what you call a semi-truck? I'm not an expert. Wait, that looks like Heavy D's truck. Probably not, but it's just because I remember Heavy D had like a black truck. That's not Heavy D, is it? No, it can't be. No. I don't know, it just looked a little bit customised. You know, like industrial look. But I don't think it's the correct colour. But yeah, chunky truck. As it's glitched out a bit with the camera, but you get the idea, right? Who's that by? Wilson trailer. Okay. So at least we get an idea of some of the traffic flow. Kind of spaced out between them. But obviously it depends the day, time of day, month, year, etc. That can vary. But yeah, last thing then, just to do like a full circle back, I appreciate people's patience. What we do need to obviously acknowledge, if I can get to it, is basically the short. So let's roughly place the marker here. Make sure I'm facing the correct way. I'd like to be facing north. Will it let me? I've got to click that off, haven't I? And then where's the north button? Ooh, has been denied. Yes, you're not going to be tracking me. Naughty, naughty. No, no, no. I just wanted the compass thing to work because normally there's that button. There we go. I forgot it's there. It only appears when you do face the wrong way. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear first of all. I don't care about location tracking. Get off. Right, I just had to do a little bit of a jump cut there because that stupid, pathetic notification would not go off, little cretin, but I've got rid of it now. Click there. And the reason why I want to return back to this spot here, roughly speaking, where Noah's body was found on the side, the white line as it was mentioned, and we've seen the marking, you know how it was laid out with the chalk and everything. We don't have to be very specific, but this is roughly the area. The white line as it was referenced, of course, but Tyler Hardy said middle of the road. Well, although the road itself, the highway, the lanes are kind of smallish, and there's only 2 lanes, one going forwards, one going back, north-south, in the middle would suggest where that yellow line is, right? And if Noah's body was found somewhere such as here, and yet the shorts were found there. Why the distance between the two? How do shorts walk across the road? And that is not the beginning of a joke, in case you're wondering. Why would the shorts end up in the middle of the road? So let's just say, if the body was dumped by the side, the clothes aren't just going to magically jump off and then appear in the middle of the road. And even if a person was staging some kind of hit and run and thought, let's place the body to the side, but we'll take the shorts off and put them in the middle of the road, that doesn't really help in a situation like that, does it? It seems a bit stupid. And as well, Caden Pressey himself at 5:15 onwards came across Noah. He was clothed. He did have shorts on, but supposedly after he left, the hidden recorded footage showed a person taking the shorts off and replacing them with white shorts and folding them nearby. But then how did they end up in the middle of the road after that? Do they then decide to think, you know what, let's not fold it, let's chuck it to the side, that's better? Or did someone else decide to do it after that point? And then by the time of 5:53, when Tyler came on down, he noticed them in the middle of the road, and I'm assuming that in the middle of the road the clothing was not folded and it was just scattered, yet it was in clean, okay condition, no damage. Now, you could argue and say, if that never happened and they were found nearby, neatly folded next to Noah's body, and there was no damage to them and they were clean and somewhat fresh, well, of course, because if they have been replaced from the worn or the worn black shorts of Noah, they've been taken away, replaced with fresh, white, clean shorts. Of course, they're going to be better for wear. They're going to look better in appearance. Yeah, based on that. But if they just so happen to be in the middle of the highway, where there's clearly room for vehicles driving on over them because the lanes are fairly narrow, there's a fair chance that the shorts would have been run over by something if traffic was present at the time, unless somehow the drivers did not touch it or swerve around it, possibly. Tyler Hardy saw it himself in the middle of the road. He didn't say whether he drove over them or not. Maybe he avoided it. What about the first caller, second caller? They mentioned nothing about clothing in the middle of the road, no mention whatsoever. So was that clothing in the middle of the road when the first and second caller passed by? Or did the clothing only appear once Tyler was driving by? But in that short space of time between 5:46 and 5:53, who in their right mind, anyone would think, oh yeah, let's just quickly grab the shorts and chuck them in the middle of the roadway. You know, we've already taken them off, the original ones. We've already replaced them with fresh ones. Now let's go back and just chuck them in the middle of the road now. That's stupid, you know. The only exception would be, if you wanted to stage a hit and run, the exception would be maybe you remove the shoes of Noah Presgrove, you dump one on the road and then one on the side or further down to make it look like you've been hit by a vehicle, you've been flung in the air, the shoes have been flung in the air like how people have suggested, and then that would be more realistic than a pair of shorts in the middle of the road. You know, for the most part of it, if you somehow did get caught up in a hit and run situation, you got hit by a moving vehicle, body flung to the side or flung onwards, shoes up in the air, do you honestly think your bloody pants or trousers or shorts are going to fly up in the air as well? I don't think so. You get hit by a vehicle, your shorts aren't going to suddenly fly off and break a world record for distance covered. No, most of the time they'll be on. And even if the shorts or clothing was a bit loose, well, they probably would already drop down before you even got hit by a vehicle. Because most of the time people will wear reasonable clothing so it actually stays on their body and not just falls off. But if you're hit with force, does that cause any form of clothing to fall off? Mainly just the shoes, or maybe a hat or glasses, where they're somewhat loose on the body and can be knocked off if impact is made or contact. As for your shorts, they tend to be pulled down. Someone would have to pull them down, or someone else would, okay? And as I'm doing the demonstration right now, I almost pulled my shorts off just then, so I best keep hold on to them. And no, I'm not going to be doing a demonstration of how shorts could be pulled off and end up going elsewhere, because then I'll probably get in trouble with YouTube, and then other people will be demanding for Warlight Wrath OnlyFans, and that might be a step too far. But you get the reality of the situation, right, in terms of the shorts. How odd for them to end up in the middle. How odd, right? It's only been mentioned now, right? Now, if it's possible, I'm going to look at that autopsy report right now and do a brief comparison. So here we are. We can just read from where it's highlighted in the red line underneath the shoe situation. So it says, also received were 3 separate brown bags labelled as follows: shorts, containing a pair of white printed shorts without observable damage. White metal chain containing 3 pieces of white metal chains, and tooth containing a broken half of a tooth consistent with a molar tooth. Now, people have talked about the white metal chain. What's that all about? 3 pieces. Does that complete a full chain? Is that the chain that Noah was wearing around his neck? Yes or no? Possibility. But as you saw before, it mentioned brown bag, one of which in the bag was shorts containing a pair of white printed shorts without any damage on them noticeable. So it could be implied as fresh shorts, good condition shorts, right? And you could argue and say, well, yeah, there would be if they were replaced instead of having the black ones. So you take black ones off, replace them with white ones. Of course, they're going to look better for wear when those white ones weren't really worn much at all, if not at all, but they were still belonging to Noah, right? So my question still stands. Okay, they've been replaced. Odd in itself, tampered with from the looks of it, because Caden Pressey saw that they were black, the original ones, but then when Caden left, and when whoever did whatever, and then when called in, and then when the Emmy got on down and that was all conducted afterwards, it was reported as white shorts. You've gone from black to white, 2 separate shorts, 2 different ones. Caden saw 1 pair, Tyler Hardy saw another pair. Caden saw them on Noah's body, Tyler saw them off Noah's body and in the middle of the highway. Yet the autopsy report doesn't quite go into depth here, unless it was mentioned on a different slide, but I was just using what I had with me, okay? So I know it is limited, but I thought I'd just share it with you and be honest. But I do remember hearing it other times on a consistent basis about the shorts being folded, at least. And maybe somewhere in the autopsy it does mention it elsewhere, but just the fact that you got a pair of white shorts, okay? And yet Caden saw that Noah had black shorts. You don't go from black and white in the middle of a highway unless other people were there at some point to change them after the death of Noah, which is a form of foul play, right? And after Caden went, from the looks of it, supposedly. But whoever replaced the shorts, how did they get a hold of those white shorts? Were those white shorts from the party house? And if so, was it someone from the party house that then exchanged them onto the hands of others? Because how would any outsiders or off-duty cops or anyone like that get a hold of those white shorts to begin with? Someone would have to hand them to them, or those officials would have to go on down to the party house, get a hold of them, go back to the highway and place them there. And that seems a bit far-fetched and obvious, right? So there's always that question that remains, but, it's weird how the shorts are in the middle of the highway and yet they were described as in good condition, no damage done. But if you do have a bit of traffic coming on by from like caller number 1, who's also got cars behind him, you're saying that not one vehicle actually drove over the shorts, even accidentally, even just a smudge, not a single tire mark. So would that imply that those shorts were only there for a very short period of time, no pun intended? You could argue that. I mean, from 5:15 to 5:46, a fair bit of time has passed by. If you wanted to round it up or round it down, a 15-20 minute time difference and a 15 to 25 minute time difference. If shorts were laying down in the road for about 25 minutes maximum or so, would they have got dirtied or damaged in between that? Would any vehicles have run over them? I guess it depends on what's the average traffic flow at that time in the morning, how many cars pass by, what's the percentage, what's the chance and the probability that a single car vehicle or a single tyre on one of the moving vehicles would run over the shorts. That could get a little bit deep, but you could try and work it out possibly. But at least how it's been described here, the shorts in no observable damage, pretty good condition. So you could argue somewhat fresh. It's kind of like the Dylan Rounds situation with Dylan Rounds' boots, which were dumped around the dirt mound of the Grainshed property. And Brenner was like, well, I've not seen Dylan for over 6 weeks or over a month, so I don't know where he's at, but these boots were left behind. And yet the boots, how they were described, how Candice Cooley described them, they were fresh, recent, So Brenner was lying. If it happened recently, then the other stuff happened recently as well, besides disposing. So that could apply to the Noah Presgrove case with the short situation. So I think this was perfect timing to round off what I was looking at yesterday, zero in on the short situation, middle of the road, and even the traffic situation. I could always go into it a bit deeper, maybe sometime with the traffic situation, but bit by bit, and indirectly just so happens to be in the same order as what I'm doing things in. Got the flow, got the understanding as well, or at least to an extent. And hopefully people were able to follow my map analysis today. If it does need marking out, I could possibly do that as a standalone video, but I think we'll leave it there for now. I need to figure out what's the next video I need to do, where do I need to catch up on next, whether that be one of the interviews or more so one of my pre-existing ideas. I guess I'll see, but feel free to like and share this video so more people see it, and even just leaving comments under this video does really help in terms of spreading awareness of these videos, so then YouTube puts them out there more. Because it even said as well in the statistics that because regular viewers chose to watch more, comment more, engage more, that's what boosted the video. And some people could think, why do you want the video boosted? Because then it will spread awareness of my analysis, so more people see it from my point of view, and it spreads awareness of the case. There's long-term, deeper reasons behind it, and I think most people that do watch understand that. But as for new viewers, there's a brief explanation. So hopefully you found the video interesting, you liked it. Feel free to catch up on previous videos, such as earlier today. I did about 2-3 videos in addition to everything. Top right corner screen where the eye symbol is. You'll also find a playlist to the Noah Presgrove case, what I've done. Been a bit of a long day. I think I've done like almost four long format videos. That is crazy, right? I know I've done videos in the past of a certain length, but they've not been as long, I don't think. And, you know, going from one case to another just like that. I normally don't do that, but, you know, with the exception of catching up, sometimes you got to. And providing it's done correctly, which it was, should be fine. Any time for exercise? I don't know. I think this was an oral exercise itself. So we'll leave it there for now. Be on the lookout for that Caden Pressey interview. I'm aware of it. If I get time, of course, I'll try to listen to it. It's important to do so. But as I said, there are a lot of ideas and things to catch up with, to make sense of first, and then catch up then with the other stuff. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your patience. Of course, big shout out to the range of people last night for support on the channel, the super chats, super stickers, memberships, gifted memberships. It's all very good to see, of course. And yeah, just thought I'd add that in just now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, possibly. Good night for now.